is so strange. Oh, you know what? If you haven't used your computer before, or if you changed some settings, it might be a privacy setting. I know that I struggle with that early on. You have to allow for video and audio. It might be something, but then you also have to restart your computer or something like that to make it effective. So just feature note if anyone's struggling with video or audio. All right, how many members are we at now? Amy, Brian, Carter.
I lost it.
We have a quorum. We have over a quorum.
Really?
So we should, yep.
Oh,
Well, Bill,
there's more.
Steve is on, yeah.
Yep, Stephen Remind's popping in.
I'm counting
I see-
6.
Sorry.
Brian
I
Carter.
see 5.
Amy, Brian Carter.
Oh, I'm not seeing Carter.
Yeah, he's in. Kim,
Oh, that's not coming up on
Stephen,
mine.
Bill. I'm counting 7 just really quickly. So whenever you're ready, Amy, we can begin.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Cheers to 2021. Hopefully it's a little bit better for everybody than 2020. We're really hoping that we can get running again, literally in 2021. So I know J&A Racing is ready for it. So let's go ahead and get started. I know we have a lot to cover. Elaine is going to keep us really busy today. So first of all, I guess roll call. Do we just want to go through the Bike and Trails members?
Yes, we should. And if you want to make a note about the meeting being recorded as well, that's on the agenda, just to make sure everyone's aware.
Please note, everybody, that it is recorded through WebEx. So roll call. Amy Frostick, present. Does everybody want to speak?
Brian Hickman's here.
Steve Romine, present.
Carter Sinclair here.
Kim Schuler here. Oh, crap. Is that everyone?
Jim Roberts, but I'm not a member.
Also, Bill Hart. Bill, you're muted. So if you would like to speak to me, just find your mute button and hit that. But if not, note for the record, Bill Hart is here as well.
It's noted.
Yeah, Dan Edwards, I'm liaison from Parks and Rec Foundation.
Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
Hugh Tierney, liaison for Parks and Rec.
Okay, well, we'll get started. Everybody should have a copy of the minutes from our meeting in November. Can I get a approval of the minutes?
So moved. Steve Romine, make the motion.
In a second.
My motion for approval.
Great, thank you. And then moving on, we have some unfinished business. I know Trina, I may be guilty of this as well. We need to make sure we get our volunteer hours to Trina every month. So if everybody can make sure they, Trina, like probably December and January, you need updated.
Amy, I'm sorry, you're kind of blanking out. I'm not getting, I'm getting like every other word. Repeat that, please.
Okay. For volunteer hours, we need everybody to submit their hours. So if everybody can make sure that they have completed December, and then make sure you keep track of January, report to Trina your volunteer hours, that would be great.
Yes, thank you.
Additionally, if I can make note, and you all should have received the email, just a reminder that financial disclosure, this email should have come out of the city clerk's office, and that needs to be filled out and completed within the month, really. I think that deadline, what's the deadline? If Trina or Amy, if you remember that, is about like beginning of February.
1st.
February 1st, okay.
Great. And Elaine, do you want to touch on the 17th Street Roadway webinar?
Sure. And this is really just a follow-up to what happened previously. As you all members may recall, also, I shared an email with you with a link to participate in a WebEx meeting regarding that project. 17th Street Roadway webinar was on November 18th. And for those of you who did participate, thank you for your time and your input and involvement in that. It was a public workshop hosted by WSP, which is the consultant on the project. And I know that some of you provided feedback. I know that Vice Chair Walter Camp submitted a follow-up email on behalf of some BTAC comments concerning connections and bike and ped safety and accommodation. And also just to let you know too, on the internal side, as construction drawings come in, I'm one of the reviewers for any roadway projects. So as part of my internal review, I looked at that project and compared that against what we are proposing in the new active transportation plan. And the active transportation plan calls for shared use paths between Bird Neck and Cypress. And that's really based on daily traffic loads. The higher speed is 35 miles, it's like 25 miles as you go a little bit further east on 17th Street, which of course is Virginia Beach Boulevard. So that factored into my comments, just to let you know that, because I know they were also seeking input, would you all prefer on-road bike lanes or would you prefer separate facility? And so on-road bike lanes is appropriate from Cypress East, but Bird Neck to Cypress, it's more appropriate for shared use path, and that's consistent with what we are proposing in the active transportation plan. So that's really it for that. As more workshops and those kind of things come in, just like the ramp, the resort area mobility plan, and we're asked to participate, I will forward those along just so that you all have a voice and opportunity to participate in that process, because in the beginning, that's when it's really valuable and important. And you can have, your voice makes a difference. Thank you.
Great. And that leads us right into that active transportation plan.
Yes, the active transportation plan. As I mentioned at our November meeting, I gave a full staff presentation at the Planning Commission's meeting on December 9th. And this month we're on the formal agenda. In 2 days, on this Wednesday, I'll be giving another briefing. And then that will also be the Planning Commission public hearing, where we will be seeking recommendation for approval, a motion from Planning Commission for recommendation for approval to City Council so we can get this plan adopted. So that'll happen Wednesday, and your representatives, Chair Amy Frostick and Vice Chair Walter Camp, will also be present to say a few words in response. You may recall I also forwarded you an email with the link. You are welcome to listen in, join in at the noon session. There's a 9 a.m. staff briefing again, and then noon is the formal meeting and plan and public hearing. But originally I was told to give a whole full-blown presentation again, and now it's being morphed to, we'll see if they want it. Since they already heard that they may not need that again, they may just put it on the consent agenda unless they have issues and I need to do something to change the plan or somehow respond to any questions or concerns they have. So you're welcome to tune in with that link, but no obligation. And I'm not even sure that I will officially be presenting. You may just be watching a consent agenda. So that's the update. Just learned that one today, but we should be moving that. And then after Planning Commission, what happens next, because it is a component of a comp plan, a comprehensive plan for the city of Virginia Beach, that means it must be adopted by City Council as a formal document. So then after Planning Commission, when it goes to City Council, we're hoping for mid to late February. I'll have to give a briefing then, and same thing, it'll go on their formal meeting public hearing for adoption. Thank you all for your prior participation in that too. That was very valuable. And I know most of the same members are still on the committee when, gosh, it's a year and a half ago now that, or more, a little bit more, that we did the roundtable sessions with consultants and really did some working diagrams to identify priority corridors and priority conflict zones. And that really sort of became the basis of the plan. Thank you.
I know you've gone through a lot with us too, so thank you for representing all of us. A lot. And then so we're the Bike Buddies program. Is Walter on here? Do you want to talk about that, or are you gonna?
Walter is not in the meeting right now. He has another meeting with Councilperson Henley until about 4 o'clock, I believe. So I may try to jump on. Yeah, so I'll just cover that briefly. And I know, again, we've been giving reports on that basically monthly, but just a few updates. The link that I provided on the agenda is a little interview that Meeting 10, we had a little interview. Walter and myself were asked to provide some information on the program. And so that was a fun little piece. If you want to watch that little news clip, you're welcome to click on that link. After the meeting, I won't bombard you with too much of that. But as a result of that little news clip, we did sell 4 more racks at 11th Street and 1 at 33rd Street. So we have a total of 35 racks sold now, which is really exciting to see that program launch during the pandemic even. So this is really fantastic that people are really enjoying the program and like to see the infrastructure out there. But what I did try to show you last November meeting was a link to the Parks and Rec promotional video that was put together through collaboration with the City of Virginia Beach, BBTV. And I was a failure at sharing the audio on that one. So I'm going to try that again today to give you, it's just a little 2.5-minute video, but it does feature, Walter spoke on it, Michael Kirschman, our director, spoke on it, and Hugh Tierney did such a great job just really showcasing why he participated in this program. So I really would like y'all to just take a minute and see that. So fingers crossed. Let's see how tech savvy I am this month. Wave at me.
We see a lot of bikes being secured to light poles, to the railings. People are riding their bikes down here all the time, citizens as well as tourists. And we really wanted to satisfy that need.
I had heard about needs down at the ocean front, and at the foundation, they were interested in finding more opportunities for donors to honor their loved ones, their businesses, and the city. And it seemed to me that this was a natural fit to create a new program, something else that people could use and be attached to, and that would also beautify our city.
As part of an initiative we launched, really started with the Bikeways and Trails Advisory Committee, which is a council-appointed commission. We started talking about, well, what if we worked together and made it a public-private partnership to install bike infrastructure throughout the city?
Just like the Bench Buddies and the Tree Buddies, the Bike Rack Buddies are all funded by private individuals or businesses. So this is a way that a citizen or a business can purchase something in the parks or along the boardwalk here at the ocean front to commemorate a life event, to remember a lost one, and really have that memento in the parks.
What I decided to do was get the first 5 racks so I could not just share my dad's name and his life time frame and his naval service, but also what the family thought about him. So it does tell a story in business, what he did for fun, and what he meant to all of us in the family.
We were excited to get involved, not only because we love this city, but because it's a good idea. So we bought a plaque to honor the Building 2 event, all of the victims and all survivors and the bravery there.
When it's not being used as a bike rack, it's a nice piece of public sculpture that makes our city just a little more fun, more unique. For those who are interested in being a part of the program, on the city's Parks and Rec Foundation website, you can find a description of the program and the locations that are currently available for sponsorship.
So there you have it. So that was kind of a fun little piece. And I know others of you on BTAC have also participated in the program, and we're just really excited. And that just was a great way to make it personal. And again, thanks to you for even volunteering to be a part of that promo video. You're a natural, you're a star.
Hey, Elaine, one question. What racks are left to sell at this point?
Well, they're bigger picture, there is a behind the scenes master plan where internally I vetted that with various staff and different departments to determine locations along the boardwalk and Mount Trashmore at this time for appropriate bike parking locations. And there's all sorts of things that go into that, whether, emergency access, event planning, what infrastructure is there, what's not, so it's all of those connector parks. So there is that, and we, instead of, but all of those locations are not opened up right now. We open those up as locations deemed a priority that really need the bike infrastructure. Those are the first phases. And then, so as they sell, more locations will be opened up. But currently it's, we still have 4 at 11th Street. We still have 5 at Mount Trashmore on the Kids Cove side. And no, I'm sorry. We have 1 at 11th Street and 4 at 33rd Street. So once those 2 connector parks sell, then we'll open up another 1 or 2 connector parks. And again, like I said, there's the 5 at Mount Trashmore available this time too. And as far as signature parks, we're only trying to do that. We're not really kind of dropping them all over the city, and certainly not in our neighborhood parks. So it's really, at this time, Mount Trashmore is the only park. And then there are numerous locations along the boardwalk that have been identified for, depending on need, we'll open those up. Oh, and then the next agenda item, please scratch that. That's a duplicate. I actually put it down under new business as well. So sorry about that.
Then the annual plan.
Yeah, that was, we were hoping, Brian, if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Hey, sorry, juggling a couple things. Yeah, so for the members, we talked about this past couple months. You should notice that I put some calendar invites out there with some high-level notes about what the meetings were about, just to try to improve overall awareness of our planning cycle and what's to be included in each meeting and what deliverables we're tracking towards for the year. So I sent those invites out, and I think everyone got them. I didn't see any responses or questions on them at the moment. But if you have questions, let me know.
So the neat thing about what Brian's done, if I might add something, is that with each of those invites, you may notice that it includes the tentative pending agenda item for that month. Now, this is our first go at this, and so it doesn't mean that we'll stick to that like gospel, but those are general timeframes for when things are appropriate, such as the annual report to council. That's due every spring, things like that. So we'll that is a great guideline, but you'll notice that with each invite that does sort of outline that. So you should see on the corresponding agenda that I send out in advance of the meeting, it will likely have that item on there that Brian has sent with each month, which of course, again, that calendar is living documents, so we can add, revise, retract as you all see fit.
Yep, perfect, Elaine, thanks.
Thank you for your work on that.
Yes, and I got all my invites, so thank you, Brian, for doing all that. And then did we want to touch base on the Virginia Beach Trail?
Yes, the reason why this is back on the agenda is just as most of you may know or remember that summer 2019, we put together, we meaning staff and myself, put together a build grant application, which was a federal U.S. Department of Transportation grant application, which unfortunately we did not get the grant. No one in the Commonwealth received an award for the build grant during that cycle. But that was our attempt to see if we could get some federal funding for that project to launch a phase 1. The Virginia Beach Trail, for those of you that do not know, is a proposed shared use path within the former Norfolk Southern Railroad corridor. Now, that's 12 miles long. It has appeared as a priority project in the City Council adopted Bikeways and Trails Plan since 1981, for those of you that are unaware. So this, for 40 years, we've been talking about putting a shared use path in this corridor, irregardless of whether there's gonna be light rail or not. I mean, you know, and truly, still to this day, I preface this with understanding this is a transportation corridor. We don't know that someday there won't be another something or other. Light rail or not, but another something or other. So to be a multimodal corridor, that's not something that was within my responsibilities, but is within my responsibilities to continue to advocate for the Virginia Beach Trail because BTAC, City Council, citizens have called for this since 1981. It will remain a priority project in this new active transportation plan. And it's what we can do, because the thing is, it's a project. It's designed to 15% construction drawings, but there's 10.5 mile remaining corridor that is unbuilt. The easternmost 1.5 mile segment is currently known as the Norfolk Avenue Trail between Bird Neck and Pacific, and it's highly used and much loved and a fantastic little strip. But then we have railroad from Bird Neck all the way to the Western City Limit Line. And we do not have funding for the project this time. This will be the second year in a row that we are submitting an above target request to City Council to consider funding a portion of that. You know, what we're proposing is that this upcoming fiscal year that we would have funds to design 100% phase 1 construction drawings, which would cost about $1 million just to design. So we'll see about that. But the reason that, again, for this update is, in addition to just making you aware that we are submitting for above target request, is that Wavy TV has asked us to do another interview. And so Walter Camp, your vice chair, and myself will be doing another interview this Thursday morning, just to highlight what that project is. And thanks to a lot of your involvement, whether it's through BTAC officially or also some of the private sector companies and organizations that you represent, because during that build grant, even though we didn't get that grant, it's the first 30 pages of that is a fantastic narrative which highlights the project, shows illustrations, and probably most importantly includes about 50 letters of support from the private sector and the general public. That's fantastic that within a couple weeks time, I mean, don't get me wrong, we worked like heck, and Walter Camp spearheaded that hardcore. It was exhausting, a little overwhelming, but it just shows that the public is really in support of this. And so, now all we need is the money, right? And that's the easy part. Not really, but anyway, but it is a project. It is designed to 15%. It is something that would completely change the dynamic of our city, connecting employees to potential employment centers, providing an active transportation route that is safe and separate from vehicular roadways, and connect our from the light rail to town center to our ocean front. So all these key corridors, it goes through many strategic growth areas, which are the areas of town that our city has identified to focus economic development and growth. And it's just a fantastic project. We just want to make sure that everyone remembers it. And we've been asked to just give a little highlight. So that'll be happening this Thursday. And then I'm sure another month or whatever, I'll send you another link just to keep you guys current on really projects that you represent ultimately. Thank you.
I have a question on that, Elaine, and being new to the process. I know one of the organizations that I belong to, People for Bikes, they say they're very helpful in terms of assisting people with grants. I don't know if you've reached out to, I've reached out to them as a private citizen, but I don't know if you've reached out to them. They're a Colorado-based organization that does a lot of work for installing infrastructure like that.
I am familiar with them. I think I'm on their email, their newsletter distribution list. I think I get their emails about what's going on, but I have not reached out to them regarding this project or others. So I could follow up on that. One of the issue too is that truly even to submit for a lot of grants, especially at the VDOT, the US DOT level, which Most of them come through, especially of this magnitude. This trail, we're talking over $50 million to construct this 10.5 miles worth of trail. And projects of this magnitude, or even a lot less, usually require a local match. And at this time, there isn't, I don't even have CAP dollars for a local match. Local match means usually 20%. So, for example, part of the build grant, I had $2 million that generated, okay, well, what can we build for a phase one, which is a $12 million phase one. And that's what I had to have in our coffers here to be able to show the Department of Transportation that, hey, we are vested in this. So that's some of the issue. But thank you for bringing people for bikes. I can look into that and see if they have something that we could utilize right now. Yeah, and again, on the city level and staff level, I'm a little tight. I can't go out and fundraise. What I can do is put together the proposed project, and through the guidance of Michael Kirschman, our director, and Chad Morris, our administrator, just try to request counsel. There is support. There is support for it. It's just a matter. There's just so many competing projects, and from everything from stormwater to hello, pandemic. I don't know how likely it is this year, but that's all we can do is ask. And I'll keep searching for other funding grant opportunities. Thanks for that suggestion. Appreciate it, Carter.
So we'll need 20% of 50 million. So that's $10 million we need to find. Okay.
Yeah.
Carter.
Minimum.
Elaine, I wonder if there's a grant rep somewhere in Washington that could answer some questions about what could have been improvements in our application for that money.
Actually, yes. Well, actually, after the grant gets submitted and when they notify recipients of the results, US DOT has a debriefing. And so actually I participated in that with the Department of Public Works. City of Virginia Beach submitted 2 projects. One was out of the Public Works Department for a roadway extension, Nimmo Parkway roadway extension. And this, of course, our Virginia Beach Trail. 2 different pots of money, because one is the Nimmo Parkway is considered in the more rural district, and we're more urban. So they weren't competing against each other, but they were both submitted, and I worked with Public Works to get that submitted, and Kimley Horn Consulting firm. And so we were briefed on it. They said it was a good application. It just, there's just so many. It's so competitive. Every municipality wants a piece of this. And as I mentioned, not a single municipality in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia received a build grant that round. The trouble is, my hands are tied. I can't even submit for the next build grant because right now I don't have 20% anymore. It's going to other Bikeways and Trails projects. And we can run through some of those actually later in this meeting when we go over the 2020 annual report. But so even that, it's tough. It's really tough to come up with the funds.
And yet none of the projects were granted.
In the entire Commonwealth.
Surprising.
Every application. It happens. Not every state got them either. It wasn't just Virginia, but it's just highly competitive. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's something like there's quite a few hundreds of applications, and, they only reward a small percentage of those. So, yeah, but that was the pot of money. There are other VDOT, channeled through VDOT, but VDOT grant applications or US DOT, like I said, but because of the magnitude of that, the build grant was the appropriate place to apply for that. VDOT, we do get a lot of small through the TAP grant program, Transportation Alternative Program, which again, I'll highlight some of those projects later today and what's been awarded and what's coming up. Those are a little easier to get because it's not of the magnitude that the Virginia Beach Trail is. But all you can do is put forth the best application you have and hope it catches someone's eye. And that round it didn't. But we still have, it's an excellent process. The information is still relevant, and it's not out of date. So should an opportunity come up, I have presentations about it. I've given presentations in the past to various groups, CBDA, et cetera, that were interested in hearing about the project. we're going to be on the news, and just letting the public know, hey, whatever happened to that, or what, it's still out there, it's still possible. We are seeking funding for it.
If you're seeking involvement, I'm available.
Thank you.
I once missed a federal grant, educational grant, and then got the feedback, and I took that grant representative out for lunch. I went to Washington just to do that. We got the grant the next year.
All right. All right. Secret weapon. Excellent. Well, so you're a man in the know. That's appreciated. That's good to know.
Okay, well, thanks for that report on the Virginia Beach Trail. I know we're all eager for that to eventually come into play for all of us. But moving on to new business, I think Elaine mentioned at the very beginning that we all need to make sure we have our financial disclosure annual filing form. It looks overwhelming, but it's really easy. So if you need advice on how to do it, complete. The directions are pretty. And then we're going to go into the annual report, Elaine. I guess that was on reports.
Yes, I will share my screen again. So we have not, we meaning BTAC, and me as your derelict liaison, have not submitted an annual report to City Council for the last couple of years. Now, some of that is because there was a transition. As you know, I've been in this role for 2.5 years now. So the last report was submitted in, I believe it was like February 1st of 2018. So technically that made it a 2017 report. So we're excited to get this going again. And let's see, can you all see that? Can you see a Word document? Yes, okay. So this is, we're just getting into the beginning of this, and Amy, Walter, and myself primarily are coordinating on coming together with a list of a recap of the 2020 projects and any other really key achievements or milestones that have happened since that last report that was submitted in February 2018. So where we are now is this also, by the way, follows the calendar year, not the fiscal year, which most of you know the city operates in fiscal year. So we have to change the format of it a little bit to be calendar year. And I've just highlighted a list of bulleted projects here that to show, I guess, in draft form what we have been up to. So some of this will look very familiar to you, and some of this may not. Some of this is stuff that happens behind the scenes when I'm not chatting with you all. But I have a 2020 annual recap, and then I also have below this, and I'll keep scrolling down I'll just kind of read the list to you. We also have things that are coming up in 2021. Assuming you all can see this, and maybe I don't need to read every single line item, but just some highlights. Obviously, really the reason some of the, or I shouldn't say, okay, I'll just say that really what have we been doing over the last couple of years? We've been spending our time doing large scale master planning. This was a season where a lot of the planning documents, especially related to bikeways and trails, are a decade old now. So it was time to revamp and get into the world of really active transportation more than just strolling along a path and a soft trail in a park like that. I mean, Virginia Beach is excellent with that kind of stuff, but this is really, we're more than that. The on-road bike lanes, the shared use paths, it's really for transportation as well as recreation. I'm getting a request that William Hart is requesting to annotate the shared content. Bill, I don't know if,
Hey, with the camera, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good. I still can't get my picture up, but at least I could off mute. So that I hit that by accident when I was trying to figure out.
Okay. Okay, didn't know if you needed to chime in. All right, so I'll just hit decline on that so we can move forward. So and again, what you all do is so instrumental and integral, because Bikeways and Trails Advisory Committee, again, council appointed, and what you are effecting is the policy, the planning for, the next decade or decades to come. So your participation in the Bikeways and Trails Plan, for example, which is now the 2021 Active Transportation Plan, really matters, because this is the voice, this is the policy, which then supports ordinance, so that things are constructed and built according to these priorities and standards that we're setting forth right now. So it really matters. Your voice really matters. So in this year of planning, we're working on a lot of large scale, including obviously the Active Transportation Plan. Additionally, behind the scenes, I've been working with Hampton Roads Regional Transportation Organization. They've been developing over the course of this last year their 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan, which I'm involved with the active transportation projects. And what that does is basically on a regional scale prioritizes all transportation projects. So obviously Public Works Roadway is its own category, but active transportation is its own category too. So we get this put together as this massive spreadsheet, and you submit that regionally. So every project, not just Virginia Beach projects, that we are, again, collectively as a region for all the Hampton Roads communities, our projects are being ranked. So it's everything from the Virginia Beach Trail to an underpass, so, crossing under 264 to a Seaboard Road shared use path. It could be any and every project that's pending really needs to be ranked within their long range transportation plan, and in order to even be eligible for future funding. For example, when I submitted for that build grant, and when I submit for upcoming TAP grants, Transportation Alternative Program grants, a project does not have much merit if it's not recognized and supported at the regional level. So that HRTPO is an important organization. They do great work, and it is important that we work together on the long range planning for our city and the region. So also, City of Virginia Beach has been updating the comp plan. So Bikeways and Trails Plan is a component of the comp plan, this active transportation plan, but the larger comprehensive plan is a citywide document. And the last update was in 2016, and it's being updated again. And there's a transportation chapter in there. So I've been working with the planning department and providing assistance on that as appropriate, and particularly for active transportation. We are putting in here, and again, the purpose of me going through this is if you see a project or anything that we have discussed in the past that is not on here that you think is of value, this is something that, this is a draft just list right now. Ultimately, it'll be an annual report with text and graphics and all this stuff like this, but this is the outline. So if something is like, well, you don't understand what it is or why it's there, or you don't think it's important, or you do see something omitted, please speak up. The Virginia Beach Trail will make it in there. So again, just because it was such a large project and proposal, even though it's not a 2020 or planning initiative, it's 2019, but because it's ongoing in the active transportation plan and we are still seeking funding, it will always continue to remain in there as it has the last 40 years. Bike Buddies program, that's a huge accomplishment and something that is tangible and out there for everyone to enjoy. TAP grant awards. So this is something where my predecessor had submitted every 2 years. TAP grants open their submission process for applications to receive. This is a VDOT program, again, roadway infrastructure dollars. So before I was in this position, Violet Bank Trail and Three Oaks Park were submitted and they were awarded. So now we have the dollars from VDOT. We were awarded that a year ago. And so now both those projects are in their planning phase. We work through with Public Works, and we have consultants who have been given notice to proceed on the design. And they're just beginning those phases where They are going to enter the design phase. Some survey work may have already taken place, and we'll spend 2021 really getting through the design so that by fall, winter, we'll have 100% design. So then these projects can go out to bid for construction in 2022. So a year from now, hopefully that's where we'll be headed with those. Construction of phase 2 of Thalia Creek Greenway. That was something that, again, the ribbon cutting was just the very end of last year, 2019. And so just 2020 has been a year where residents have been able to enjoy that. It's phase 1 was constructed a few years ago. Phase 2 connects. This is in the town center area off of Bonnie Road. Karina Green, who I believe is in the meeting, was instrumental in that, as helping to project manage that and usher that. That was a very complex project. Thalia Creek Greenway is always a very complex project. It's I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's going through wetlands, an elevated boardwalk. There are land issues. We're not always going across even our own property, so there might be easements associated with it. There's a lot of, it's an expensive project. And it's been going on for years. But phase 2 is built, and phase 3 is now underway. As far as those are both TAP grant awarded projects. So we have dollars to assist with that, and local dollars that are combined with that. And phase 3, which is further down on the list, right there, right below it, is the design for that is already just about to 100%. But again, there are adjacent properties that it traverses along the Thalia Creek. And so we're working with those residents, those commercial businesses this year to hash that out so we can get from where the bend of the shared use path of phase 2 all the way out to Independence. So then we'll have a connection from Constitution to Independence. And ultimately, when the Virginia Beach Trail is constructed, that'll create a nice little loop right there. We're all, off-road separate path. Foxfire Trail is also a TAP grant awarded project, and that's been underway for quite some time. That's again, once the annual report is formulated, I'll have like graphics with this. So if you aren't as familiar with where these are or what these are, you'll see it in further detail then. But that's progressing. That's through another former railroad corridor, and it does include an elevated pedestrian bridge. Shore Drive Trailhead at Pleasure House Point. I don't know if you all have seen that, but it connects Pleasure House Point to the shared use path on Shore Drive. We placed a bike rack there and an interpretive sign because bikes are not allowed within Pleasure House Point due to the natural sensitivities such as the terrapin turtles. So we kind of opened that up so the public, you could see a little goat path where they were hopping over the split rail fence. It's like, well, why don't we just make this official and celebrate Pleasure House Point? So things like that happen behind the scenes as well. You all participated this last spring in the development and adoption of comments for the 2020 Virginia Beach Sea Level WISE adaptation strategy. So that was instrumental and part of the formal process with Public Works. Also, we're just trying to highlight, this is something that's a little bit newer, I think, to BTAC, where you guys are really getting engaged with plan review process too. So that's what that 17th Street was, and that's what your involvement, some of you who chose to be involved in the ramp public meeting for the resort areas mobility plan, again, that's going on right now. If you know anyone else who you could pass along that link for the survey, I know that that's out there right now, and they're really looking for more feedback. That window will close very soon, probably within the next couple of weeks. And then again, their proposed plans are formulated based on some public input. We also, behind the scenes also in 2019, we submitted another application to the League of American Bicyclists to get our rating for bicycle friendly community. We were awarded bronze before, and we were awarded bronze level again. And some of that is because we are a little weak in some areas. We do need some room. We do have to make some improvements. But the good news is we have every opportunity to do so. And that's what this active transportation is all about, and all of your work. But we were awarded that again. I think it's good for the next 4 years. We'll also make mention that some of the meetings were canceled because of the pandemic. And so it wasn't like we weren't trying to continue to work, but that obviously that was a factor for not only y'all, but obviously worldwide. Education, yeah, the main component we've been able to sort of upkeep over the last couple of years with that is really the website, just really trying to ramp that up with some additional information, linking residents to what's out there in the way of bike and trail facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists. Additional infrastructure. Since the 2017 annual report, I put together this little mini spreadsheet here to just show new capital improvement. And we went from, bike lanes didn't change according to the count, but more projects are coming along the pike too. Sometimes that's just a matter of, when they're large scale public works roadway projects, it takes years from the time that is authorizing and funds approved to go through the design, oftentimes acquisition, and then construction of these roadways. So you'll see more changes coming in the next couple of years. Wide outside lanes increased by quite a few miles, and these are center line miles, and shared use paths grew a little bit. So just within, really, that's truly just a couple of years time when you think of the time for construction. So that does show increase. And then this is where we start with projected projects for what we're looking towards in this year. But first of all, can I ask, did I forget anything? Is there anything that y'all think of? I noticed I don't have May Bike Month, and we may not have room for all these either. I may have to pare this down anyway, but is there anything that anyone has for consideration? Please just unmute yourself and speak up now before we move on to the 2021.
Elaine, what about the bike racks that we added to Shore Drive?
Yeah, are you speaking of the TVA grant money, $3,000 grant money, where we picked locations within the Ocean Park and really along the north side of Shore Drive at those bayfront connectors? Yes. Yeah, we could add that. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, moving on. This is, all right, that long. So and we'll just summarize this. In 2021, what we're looking towards as a spin-off project to the Active Transportation Plan. Appendix A of that plan is an in-depth, presentation of design guidelines for best practice for active transportation facilities in this era. And this really, the cool thing about this is the consulting team that you worked for, and whom you've met, a couple of the members through the public process and your involvement in that a year ago, is Tool Design Group. And they are the same group that is advising AASHTO. AASHTO puts forth the standards for roadway design and transportation. And so at the national level, that's the standard that which then all of our municipalities, all of our states, VDOT, et cetera, then look to. It's one of the guiding documents and standards for design. And Tool Design Group is their consultant on that for active transportation. So we have the privilege of having direct counsel from those who are at the cutting edge at the federal level to establish best practice in the United States. So this Appendix A is not fluff. It's not just cute pictures. It really is to the heart and the meat of what makes the safest, the most effective, efficient, best practice bikeways and trails facilities in our nation. Now, does not make it regulation and ordinance. And so the goal is to then take these best practice design guidelines and work with the City of Virginia Beach Public Works Department to see what is applicable, what we can use to update what is currently within the Public Works Design Standards Manual. There's specifically an Appendix F called Bicycle Facilities Appendix. And that right now, again, was drafted about a decade ago. And Public Works went through this heavy lift effort within this last year to update their design standards manual, which was again also about they were trying to do that for about a decade, and they pushed it across the finish line. It's an excellent document, but unfortunately, because we were in the paralleling the timeline of working on this active transportation plan, that their bicycle facilities appendix did not get updated in time, because we were quickly working behind the scenes again to develop what has now become our Appendix A in the active transportation plan for these best practice design guidelines. And so after the active transportation plan is adopted, I'm hoping that by the middle of this year, then I can work with Public Works and probably members planning department. It'll be interdepartmental to form a committee to then go line item by line item and see what we can glean from this planning document. It's a planning document. It shows, again, best practice planning document, and see how we can apply that into real live design standards. And what's in that Public Works document is what not only the city, when it comes to their roadway projects, but if it's a private developer, anyone who's building within the city adheres to that document. That is supported by the ordinance, and then therefore, once we get that updated, then we have a much better chance of having better and greater facilities being constructed rather than subpar. For example, where a wide outside lane may have been considered as a bike facility in the past, it is no longer considered that. That is outdated, that is dangerous, and that is not considered best practice. So it's a heavy lift. It's a change. It's a change in mentality and prioritization, and some of it's a little uncomfortable to have to figure out, well, how do we make that shift? But it's important because we're talking about, again, building facility for all users of all abilities. That's our goal. So if it's going to be an on-road bike lane, it needs to be a safe and clearly marked, identified, wide, separated, protected, whatever it needs to be. But shared use path, that's another gold standard. So just all the best practices, which you all should be pretty well familiar with now after having done your review of the active transportation plan and seeing that appendix, what I'm talking about. But that is basically a spin-off project that will take a lot of time internally with staff, but we've got great staff in Public Works and in the planning department that will be able to come up with something where we can update their standards. Foxfire Trail will be moving forward. I mentioned that project earlier. That's not a TAP grant. So these are just continuation, because now that they're all in design process, and we're hoping to hopefully finish design. All three of these projects, Foxfire, Violet Bank, and Three Oaks path, should hopefully complete their design by the end of calendar year 2021. So again, they hopefully will be going towards construction in 2022. Valley Creek Greenway Phase 3, I already touched on that. So, but by the time that's built, we'll have a full 1 mile path through from Constitution to Independence. There's Three Oaks path. Okay. Another project that was actually part of my CIP planning for this last fiscal year was to revisit the boardwalk bike path. Out of every facility in the city, the boardwalk bike path, I get the most feedback from residents on conflict points and how it's just, people are frustrated. They love it, but they're frustrated. They wish it were wider. They wish tourists wouldn't walk down the middle of it. They wish at every connector point where when they're riding on the bike path, that when the sea of pedestrians is crossing at the connector parks, as there are, 30 of them, that there was some way to indicate, hey, wait a minute, who gets the right of way? And so it's complex because in the United States, pedestrians have the right of way. But on the boardwalk bike path, it sure seems, and I guess culture, the boardwalk culture is that actually the bicyclists have the right of way, and pedestrians was to stop and look left and right as if they were getting ready to cross a roadway. So actually people get really emotional about this, get really upset, and we want to do better. So, and there are things that can be done. It does take dollars, and I'll have to take a little bit of investigation, inventory and analysis, basically. And it is just about a 3 mile long stretch. But what can we do? Whether it's green painting or different intersection signage, or somehow to, I mean, we don't have the capital dollars to do something amazing like widen the bike path and make room for e-scooters on it too. I mean, that's really not part of it. But this was a project again for last year, but it had been tabled because of the Strategic Growth Office, the Strategic Growth Area Office launching their update to their RACE app, which was the Resort Area Strategic Action Plan, which then is one of those recommendations. It launched the RAMP, the Resort Area Mobility Plan, which is all in that area, in that SGA. And so it would not have been appropriate to proceed as a separate project looking at the boardwalk. We really need to see what recommendations come out of the RAMP before proceeding with this. So it's my understanding that the RAMP should be finishing up this spring, but we'll have to wait and see. That comes out of the planning department, and they have asked for our involvement in that. I have as staff, and I know you all have as BTAC members, those of you who chose to participate. And so once we get that final plan, which again will have to be adopted, it will be adopted by City Council, then we'll see what we have to work with and what we should move forward with as far as recommendations for improvement to the boardwalk bike path. So fall of 2021 will be the next submittal cycle for Transportation Alternative Program grants. So this year, the Greenwich Road Shared Use Path is next on the docket for submittal for a TAP grant application. You may know, well, I'm sure all of you know, if you've driven around Virginia Beach, that there's that major interchange project at I-264 in Wichita. Well, as part of that, Greenwich Road, the piece of Greenwich Road that's between Wichita and the Norfolk Southern Railroad corridor is going away. They are demolishing that section of roadway, and it will end up being a cul-de-sac on the north end. And so we're trying to take advantage of that right of way and construct a shared use path in there to connect Wichita through there to the Norfolk Southern Railroad corridor, which ultimately, hopefully, will have a Virginia Beach Trail on it, and then you can just go. So and you know, carry on too. Anyway, so that's our goal. This too originally was slated for the last TAP grant cycle. However, that has been tabled because until the I-264, which is not that's a VDOT project, you know, it's an interstate. So, but until that project is nearing completion, which is my understanding that should be also this year, hopefully this spring, we will know better what roadway bed we're left with, how much right of way is left, and what if there's any roadway bed left that we could possibly use to construct this shared use path. Because if from the on-off ramp, if the ramp is pushing into that right-of-way, the existing Greenwich Road right-of-way too much, then we're going to have to cantilever a large, or one or two portions, so a large segment of that proposed shared use path over the pond there. So if that happens, then obviously the cost of the project doubles. I mean, it's going to go up anytime you do a elevated pedestrian boardwalk instead of just at grade path. We don't know what we're going to be left with yet, and so I'll coordinate with Public Works this spring to find out the basically what scope we're looking at. And then the other part of this too, where this becomes very expensive, is unlike a lot of projects that are at 20% match locally, we have to have 20% identified funds, capital improvement funds, which, you know, that's the budgeting process that happens on our end in Parks and Rec and Planning, Design, and Development, where we allocate those funds for proposed projects. Unlike 20%, this project will require a 50% match. So instantly, even if it does not require a cantilever boardwalk, even if it's at grade on the roadbed within the existing right-of-way, it's still a very expensive project, but an important connection. And the residents in the area have been patiently waiting for progress on this. So that's the next one in line. So that's what we'll submit for this fall. That's the plan at this point. And then the last one is, again, we are requesting above target funding for the Virginia Beach Trail. And we'll, you know, fingers crossed. So any questions on proposed projects for this upcoming calendar year, or additions or subtractions? And what happens next is that we listen again, go back to the behind the scenes effort of composing this annual report and getting it in a form. It is due, I believe, 60 days after the start of the calendar year. So I believe it's basically due March 1st to City Council. So we've got a lot of work to do over the next 45 days.
Elaine, this is Carter again. Just going back to the appendix, the design standards, and I know this has nothing to do with potentially what is a post-construction, but going back to, I mean, whenever I ride down Laskin Road now, I feel like I'm taking my life in my hands. But I wonder if there's a way for design standards for when you do design of any major project, that there is concessions made to maintaining some sort of rideable pathway. I mean, if I'm trying to bike commute and Laskin Road is just torn all to pieces, there is no, I mean, I can ride out on the highway. I mean, that's about the only option left. And I know there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that tries to, they're either walking the wrong way, but I mean, it's a dangerous situation. And I didn't know if there's a way for design standards. Fine. You know, after you do the design, you're going to have a nice piece there, but what is the design? What is your construction responsibility during construction to maintain safe access? So I didn't know if that would be in a VDOT standard or the city requiring that when you do design that you maintain during construction, you know, safe access for people.
Thank you for that point. I will make sure that that makes it to the list for additional discussion. I know though, when you brought that up in a October meeting, I did follow up with Public Works and just, I know this doesn't help at all with this Laskin project, but just so you know, that is part of the process. The traffic maintenance plan is part of the process, and that is actually the standard that when possible, that bike and ped accommodation be maintained as an open, a detour path, something to accommodate that as well. And I participated in that with the other various Public Works roadway projects and have helped map out appropriate, or at least approved appropriate detours and routes like that. Laskin, the answer with this one was there was no possible way to accommodate a temporary path for bike and ped, and for all users' safety, they should not be trying to do that during this construction process.
I understand they're trying to maintain the vehicular, but to me, they could have, and I know this would be a pain, but they shut down one lane all the time for construction, and people seem to still function with one lane down. So to me, if they had even just kept one lane for ped and bike as a permanent fixture, that could have solved it. I would be complaining, but to me, you know, it's a dangerous situation. So, I mean, I know car is king, but at some point, to me, we need to shift the narrative away from car is king all the time. So, you know, it might take people another 15, 10 minutes, no, 3 minutes to get where they're going if it goes to one lane. I mean, if they're in that much of a hurry, maybe they should stay on the interstate. So I've said my piece, so that's enough.
I hear you, and I do appreciate that. I think that's why we're all here, and I'll continue to bring that forward. I certainly will. I've made a note of it too, so when we do get into that subcommittee, that I'll make sure that we say, hey guys, we got to do a better job and see what ideas can come out of that to make sure that happens. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Elaine, one of the things that I thought about is could be used, do something with Virginia Beach Boulevard, you know, like 17th Street, and make that more rideable, so that could be used as a good alternative, because right now there's no way to go from the oceanfront to Hilltop safely. Laskin Road is just totally messed up. And I thought if we use 17th Street all the way to First Colonial Road, maybe that would be a better thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Have you ridden, Carter, have you ridden 17th Street? How, I'm trying to think of facility. It's just sidewalk. There's not really even a
Well, the problem
shoulder, is
is
there?
that from Hilltop to get to 17th Street, you've got to go down First Colonial Road, which is not anything better. And then once I get to Virginia Beach Boulevard, it's almost worse in terms of your access, because there's almost no shoulder at all on Virginia Beach Boulevard, and it's not very well lit. So, I mean, again, I was trying to look for all alternates, but I mean, I'm just stuck now with staying on Laskin Road. And what does worry me, I mean, I'm all lit up. I mean, if somebody hits me, my wife's going to get good insurance. But I mean, what worries me are I see a lot of people who really, for example, are riding the wrong way and with no lights, because that is the only, you know, I can use a car if I need to, but I see people who have to get from the oceanfront to Hilltop by walking or riding their bike. And it looks to me like that's their only mode of transportation. And it really does concern me seeing those people. So that's, and Virginia Beach Boulevard to me is, it's basically in the same situation.
I have another observation on the same thing, and that is that many of my friends with bicycles have been driving to the oceanfront area and then biking just because of this. There's no safe access to the oceanfront area on two wheels. And what that suggests is that if we complete a portion of this Virginia Beach Trail to maybe Oceana, we can have a parking lot there and keep tons of cars away from that area.
That was even part of the build grant, because especially that was when I was submitting the build grant, that was the first, well, now because of the pandemic, the only the Something in the Water Festival. And so all these buses were busing people in. In fact, it got to the point where they're like, don't drive down there, come to one of these lots and we'll bus you in. So yeah, it's exactly that. It's like, listen, if we had a designated parking area and people could then get on their bike, as just as exactly as you said, year round, and certainly for festivals as well, that, I mean, it just satisfies so many needs. And so you all are right. The good news is, again, with the 17th Street improvements, with the Laskin Road improvements, with our, you know, pushing and proposing the Virginia Beach Trail, with the ramp study, the resort area mobility plan, all these things is to enhance multimodal and to accommodate active transportation, not as an alternate transportation, as a legitimate form of transportation, and provide facility, real facility, safe facility, to enhance this in our city. There's really no reason not to. The only thing that slows it down is the amount of dollars and their availability. So back to this whole master plan thing, why it's so important. But the good news too is, again, those 17th Street, et cetera, those are real projects that are CIP funded in public works, and it just takes time. I can't wait for Laskin to be done. It'll be so wonderful, but gosh, does it not seem like it's going to take forever? I mean, that's the problem with this business. Everything takes forever. There's no instant gratification. But that's why your voice now makes a difference. And I don't have the answer for you right now, Carter, on that commute. I love that you do it. It makes me scared that you're doing it right now. I wish there was a better facility for you. There's not, I don't know even what to do about that now as this current project. All I can say is we got to push forward for all the future and make sure that we, accommodate facility best we can during the construction process as well.
There's an exit from 264 going east onto London Bridge. There's an abandoned commerce park with a bunch of parking down there, right next to the railroad. I would think that the city could buy that for a song and make it a satellite parking center. It's exactly 3 miles from where the the trail leaves off on Bird Neck.
That may be a possibility for a trailhead. The biggest thing is we need the trail. And then people will find places to park and get on it, or we'll be able to accommodate that. But we've got to have the trail. It'd be a game changer. I mean, that would completely change the dynamic of the city, in my opinion.
Trail comes first.
I think everybody here, sure, on that. And that's a lot of stuff that you'll be working on. We'll all be working on in 2021. So the plan looks great, Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think Walter just joined us and wanted to say something.
Just, you can never have too much good stuff. So one other thing for 2021 will be to progress the initiative with a school system to see where that takes us, as far as that working together for the Safe Schools initiative to try to find gaps in the network close to schools that they've already identified and getting them prioritized into the fixed menu so that we can get more kids with the option to be able to pedal to school and also serve the surrounding neighborhoods, because that infrastructure is there 24/7.
Excellent point. Thank you for that addition. And unless anyone else has any other project to add to this or any other comments concerning this draft list, then that completes this portion.
Great. Well, I know on the last meeting, some people spoke up and volunteered to be part of the Bike Month in May. And I know we have a lot of interested citizens on the line too about Bike Month. So does anybody have a report on any type of new plans for Bike Month? And the subcommittees, Brian Hickman, Bill Hart, Hugh Tierney, and Kima. So it's in progress. Is that what? Hello?
Yeah, it's difficult to get something planned with this COVID, all these things going on there. I think that's what I think makes it hard. Hopefully everything will be done by May. You know, I'm talking about the vaccines and stuff.
Walter wanted to say something. Again, I see a hand raised.
So maybe as a suggestion, I know offline we had a number of emails that I saw flying by with great ideas for Bike Month, but I'm not sure that they got collected up and maybe put before the subcommittee to consider in addition to their own work. Maybe something we could do to help the subcommittee is to sort of recap those different suggestions like that Kima brought back from other cities, and put that before the group to help them get some traction. I'm happy to help on that.
I think that's a great, Walter, and I can help with that too. All right, well, if we don't have anything else on Bike Month, I wanted to take a moment and congratulate Steve Romine. Are you still on this line, Steve? Well, for those who did not see the newspaper article.
I'm unmuted. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, we wanted to congratulate you for being honored as the 2021 board chair in Hampton Roads. We're very excited for you and what that's going to bring for different opportunities. And we know how active you are, so we're excited that you're going to be part of that.
Thank you, Amy. And again, if there's anything I can do at the chamber level to enhance our work here and or the Bikes and Trails initiative in Virginia Beach, let me know. It's going to be a busy year for sure.
That's Great. Well, thanks for all you do, and thanks for doing that and that to your plate. I know that's a lot. Well, good. Well, I know if anybody doesn't have anything else, we have our next meeting is going to be February 15th. One thing that I'm excited about is by Ethan Payson. I think so. He's going to be doing a presentation on the Marshview Park Mountain Bike Trails, the proposal for those new mountain bike trails. So I'm excited to see it myself. So he will be present next month. And if we don't have anything else, I just want to say thanks everyone for taking the time. I know we took a lot of your time today, but we really appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Thank you.
Anything you need me to follow up on?
I don't think so. It sounds like there were no additions to the draft annual report outline for the existing projects. Although I realized as I was, reading it out loud to everyone, and I'm not sure when you joined, Walter, but I was sharing my screen. So it does seem like a pretty long list, which I guess is good. We've been busy our last couple of years. That's really good stuff. But if anything needs to be weeded out of that, we certainly can. Probably what I'll do is just add, well, unless you want to, because I know you have the document as well. We just need to add then the schools initiative for 2021.
When I'm working on it, like you and I have been ping-ponging it, I'm going to just put that in, and then you'll see it on the next draft back to you.
Great.
So,
well, yeah, that's that.
Cool. So my focus on the loose items, then I'm going to recap what I'm aware of on Bike Month. I'll send that to you and Amy, and then that can go wherever you want to the subcommittee. I am preparing on the Planning Commission to support you on Wednesday. I saw you had an email while I was in the other meeting. I'll read it and do what you want there. Okay. And then we've got TV 10 on Thursday, and you want the annual report drafted by Friday.
Yeah, is that fine?
Well, I got to check my notes what I agreed to in the last meeting, but for the paycheck I'm getting, nothing is too much.
I know, I'm a little worried about that. I get what I pay for, but so far that has not been the case. So far that has not been the case. I'm a little afraid that might dawn on you too soon. I don't know.
All right, but since I did miss the first half of the meeting, there's nothing else new that changes what I need to do for you or the committee?
No, nothing else at all. And the only thing is, I was able to, Chad and Trina helped me figure out how to share video with audio this time. So the same Parks and Rec, Bike Buddies promotional video that I tried to share at November, I was able to share this time. So everyone saw, that with you and Hugh and you and Michael and the whole thing. So that was good. I think that was good that everyone got to see that.
Great.
But that's it. I don't think there's anything else.
Okay. I always got to check what else I'm assigned when I'm not present.
Right? That's usually how that goes.
On a related but separate subject, I got an inquiry in both of these meetings from the staff liaison at Clean Community Commission, who is struggling on how to set up their next meeting virtually. And since that's co-supported by Parks and Rec, then maybe this is more of a question for Trina, that I don't know who to tell her to talk to. Really, it ought to be interdepartmental between staff people, but I'll just let you know, Christy Rhines from Waste Management is trying to figure out who can help her set up that meeting, which is Thursday night. And if you have a suggestion on who from Parks and Rec can talk to her, I don't know who it is. It's not my place to say.
Wow. So the meeting is Thursday and it hasn't been set up yet.
The virtual aspects of it, as far as I know, haven't been set up yet. They tried last meeting. Some of us came in person to Parks and Rec. They tried to do a hybrid meeting and it was a disaster, as you can imagine. But apparently Waste Management has not been in the habit of doing virtual meetings, so they're looking for some guidance. I'm just sort of the middleman.
I have a question, Walter. Have they at least sent out how they would normally advertise for the meeting? Have they at least let everyone know that this one is a WebEx and a link will be sent? Okay, because the only reason I say that is there's a 72-hour requirement.
I know.
So that would dictate whether they could even have the meeting or not on Thursday. Is it 72 hours yet? Where are we? Monday? Yeah, maybe. But okay, so what do you think, Trina? Is that something we could at least email her and say, hey, Beth was helpful, and between Beth and Rod, but there's a little, make it a WebEx meeting right there in our calendars now. So
right,
it's a lot easier than.
It is much easier.
I guess I'm just asking you as staff liaisons, you know how to do something. I'm not sure how you learned how to do something. How do I tell her how to learn to do this thing? Yeah, she's hitting the concrete bottom with no water in the pool.
Well, but truly,
let's add a little water. This is Parks and Rec.
Is this easier to direct her to Beth, who could at least direct her to however, what do you think?
I guess my first question would be, you started this, Walter, by saying it's a combined meeting with Parks and Rec, since we, I guess, already work with her. So who in Parks and Rec has been working with
Amy Woodson.
Oh.
And Amy just sort of shows up as a content participant more so than a technical facilitator of the meeting. So I mean, I shouldn't really be in the middle of this, honestly, but she just reached out to me and said, what do I do? And it's like, how the heck do I know?
I can just email Amy, and you want me to do it? You want me to send her an email? And
I mean,
first thing I can do